Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is the DeVere Group and Joseph Mews, one of our property partners. So, as you know, property is something that you need to diversify in order for you to maximize on your portfolio. So, don't just concentrate on savings plan or maybe portfolio bonds. Property is one of major assets that you can include to your portfolio. So this will give you a diversification, and then you can actually have uh, maximize on capital appreciation. And also, if you're looking to have income, you'll be getting income from the rentals. So with me here, I have Mark from Joseph Mills. So Mark, hi, how are you doing there?
Hi, Moses. Doing very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm great, thank you. So, Mark, I have quite a number of clients who would want to know exactly who Joseph Mills is and how long you've been operation. Maybe you can just run us through what you do offer.
Brilliant. Thanks, Moses, for having us today. It's a true privilege to be partnered with DeVere in terms of providing stable property offerings in the UK. I'll be happy just to share with you exactly our track record, who we are. But I think excitingly enough, this morning we actually are doing a new launch or of a development of ours, phase three of this project that phase one and two have done incredibly well. And so we'll take you step by step through who we are, what the UK property market offers, and why we focus in that area. And then we'll top it off on the specific project, the Halcyon boundary view, which is phase three of that development. So if we can please just jump to the next slide. So a little bit about us. The company is not a new company. We've been around somewhat over 20 years in different shapes and forms. Andy Foote, our chairman, who is the gentleman on the right of the screen here, he was the founder who came up with the idea, or I should say more so the need to create a company that would be able to hold property purchasers or investors' hands along the journey of purchasing a property. Through his own negative experience of purchasing property, Andy thought, the processes could be refined a lot better, have better customer support and service along the way. And so he set out to establish the company to help clients do this in their journey. So 20 years on, it's been a huge success. Andy is himself owns probably over 100 investment properties and knows the market inside out. We have worked specifically directly with developers solely and help them build their own portfolio with their offerings, but we have recently rebranded to Joseph Mews, having stepped away from an individual developer a few years ago and allowing ourselves to work with other developers across the UK that have sound offerings, have good track records, and have a very large value proposition for the investor. So the name came about through Andy's son Joseph, who unfortunately had passed away from a brain tumor at the age of 9. And Andy, after that event, started naming his investment properties after Joseph to keep his legacy alive. And Andy and his wife also founded the Brain Tumor Charity to help raise funds for research for brain tumor patients and the like. And that has been a huge success. And in this process, Andy has slowly been naming all his properties after Joseph, keeping his legacy alive. And one of those properties is Joseph Mews, which is a Mews building in Birmingham in St. Paul's Square. That happens to be our head office. And when it came to rebranding, attributing to Joseph to again keep his legacy alive, but also tipping our hat to Andy and his wife for the efforts of the Brain Tumor Charity. We thought it was just that we named the company Joseph Mews. So that's a little bit of a story behind us and where we've come from and behind the name. If we can go to the next slide, please. What we've done in this time, we are very proud of. We've delivered just under 3,500 completed units for our clients. Those are rented out, generating an income for them, appreciating in value. This encompassed about 34 developments completed. We've got about 4 underway at the moment that are coming to completion soon as well. We've got a repeat purchase rate of 28% with our clients. So we are fully confident should a client purchase a property from us, whether it be their first or in addition to a portfolio, the chances are they would be buying the next property from us due to the service and the value add that we provide our clients in the process. And also obviously how the investments do perform themselves. So in our tenure, we've delivered just under £500 million worth of GDV through to our clients. Next slide, please. So we're very particular in the types of developers and developments we all work with. Essentially, the partnership is symbiotic for us, where the developer will have a vision, and they will obviously have the funding and the practical know-how and be able to development to life. And ourselves, we will obviously be able to assist on market research in terms of those high investment areas and what is going to actually provide a good return for the investor in terms of rental demands and capital appreciation. But we will then work closely with that developer in deriving the marketing for them and distributing that through our sales networks globally, and the developer can crack on with the build and make sure they do what they do best and complete these buildings to a high spec. We're very proud of our partnerships. Our business has been built on partnerships, and this is a testament to hard work and trust. Our partners, they don't just become partners of ours, they go through quite a thorough vetting process, the types of developments, their track record, their funding, and do they align with our objectives for our clients. You'll probably recognize Knight Frank on there, one of the largest PLCs globally. We've got an exclusive relationship with Knight Frank West Midlands, where we'll have distribution rights in the West Midlands in the UK. But today we will concentrate on the Secon Group, which is the developer of the Halcyon, and who they are and how they fit into the picture. Can we go to the next slide, please? So what it entails to purchase a property in the UK. In all honesty, purchasing a property anywhere in the world is cumbersome. It has its processes. It can get quite frustrating. So that's even more reason to make sure you're partnering with the right partner to take you through this journey. And it's important to first establish the reasons or objectives as to why you're looking to purchase a property, and specifically the UK, honing in on the type of project you should be looking at, reserving a unit, understanding if you are going to purchase with a mortgage, what your abilities of a mortgage are for the property, being introduced to sound legal advice, so having solicitors that will represent you in the UK to make sure that your purchase is done smoothly and that you're well represented in the sales agreement between yourself and the developer. And then also having the help with a managing agent that will help find you your tenants, manage that property, collect the rent, and help with maintenance going forward, so that being thousands of miles away from the property itself, you have someone on the ground that is attending to it. So you're not getting pesky phone calls from tenants late at night that your geysers burst or the like. But essentially, being a landlord can come with its headaches, but if you've got the right partner in place, it can be a seamless process and become something that washes its own face with very little effort from yourselves. So in this, our team will hold your hand throughout. We'll make sure that the handover is to expectations, that it's at quality that we've sold you the property in or as, and that's the way it's handed over. Getting the managing agent on that as soon as possible to help manage that property. We've got a few very key partnerships with our managing agents that our clients benefit from. So it's in our best interest that it's in their best interest that they perform highly for our clients, because they are accountable, or we are accountable for the introduction. But our clients who do already have managing agents are welcome to use them. But we do advise using the network that's tried and tested that we've been using for years. And then after sales, our developments offer a 10-year build warranty, which is fantastic for an investor because you're able to manage your maintenance budget in that. You know, for 10 years, you got a build warranty that all the structural, electrical, plumbing, and the likes are taken care of within that. So you won't have any nasty surprises in terms of big expenses for the maintenance of the property in that tenure. If we can go to the next slide, please. So let's just quickly have a look as to why we are chatting about the UK market. It is 2025. It's yeah, it's been a heck of a year already. It's only February, but I mean, the world politics are going strong, and obviously there's a lot of focus on the US, and there's been a lot of focus on the UK and their recent elections as well. But essentially, when we unpack the housing markets, the UK still sits there as the one of the highest performers globally, and with the most historical data to back this up. So, as a group, we've decided to focus merely on the UK as an investment destination just because of the stability and the growth the market has provided over the years. This graph it illustrates the last 40 odd years in the UK property market. And as you can see, it's just had a very strong trajectory upwards, besides a bit of a blip in 2007, 2008 at the financial recession. But you can see the recovery that has taken place since then. So even if an investor bought just before that correction, they've more than done well with their property investments in terms of the capital appreciation. This is an overview of the whole of the UK, so it's not focusing in on those high growth areas that did exceptionally well and continue to. But today we'll see that there has been a bit of a tabletop through 23 and 2024 as interest rates in the UK did rise above norm. They normally were used to interest rates of about 1.5%. Today they are sitting at 4.75%, but they did peak at 5.25%, and that obviously slowed the market down for transactions while people awaited the interest rate to drop. The drop since the end of last year has seen some stimulation in the market, and we are seeing a really good next 4 years in the or next 4 years projections are very strong for the UK market for both capital appreciation and rental growth in that time. Because as the opportunity right now in the market is that because the prices have been quite stagnant for the last 18 months, that you can get a property price at essentially 2023 prices, but you're going to obviously then, if you're buying off plan, which I'll get into in a little bit, you'll be completing your deal when the interest rates might be a little bit lower because that is still the projection in the market for that. If we can jump to the next slide, please. So when we talk about UK property investment, a lot of clients automatically think London. It has to be London. That's where that's the epicenter of the UK, and that's the economic powerhouse. And true, it has done incredibly well, and there's a lot still happening in London. But because of London's success, it has become incredibly expensive to purchase property in. And we've seen that obviously in the 90s and early 2000s, that high growth in London has done incredibly well for investors. I believe London's always going to be a very stable market. But if you're looking at your property investment as an investment vehicle alone, you must consider other factors in terms of how is your property going to appreciate in value over the next couple of years, because it's going to be a medium to long-term investment. As you've seen on that graph we just had, it's about time in the market. So you just want to hold the property that's going to appreciate, but also where are you going to get the best rental income within that sector that's going to hopefully pay for your monthly expenses of holding that property, and then give you a very decent cash flow for whatever reason, retirement or the like down the line. So if you look at London and its current growth, I mean, the last 5 years, it only saw about 8.76% average appreciation in property. But over the last 20 years, it was just under 360%, whereas Manchester has overtaken London of just being under 380% in the last 20 years, with a growth of 42.9% in the last 5 years. Compared to Leeds, we've seen a 5-year house growth of about 30% in the last 5 years and 133 in the last 20 years, which allows a good entry level in terms of the projections for an area like Leeds and Birmingham are to be quite significant in the next 4 to 5 years. So your barrier to entry is lower and your money will work harder for you in these cities. And now the reason for that is because in these cities, institutions have recognized the fact that their workforce could be cheaper. There's a better lifestyle for their employees because there's a cost of living crisis in the south around London and the likes because of the expense of living. People have moved further north to find better value for money. But not only that, there are jobs on offer, and that has had a compounding effect on how much institutional investment has taken place in these regional cities. So it's super important to keep that in mind when you come to thinking about what sort of property investment you should be looking at. Next slide, please. So just to bring it to the Halcyon in terms of what this development is, why have we decided to get behind the Halcyon the way we have, invest our own money in it, and make sure that this is a success? Well, it's a hell of a unique opportunity. In my time, I'm yet to see a development of this nature be offered to the retail investor. So it has been a very exciting prospect for us. I'll take you through the intricacies of it, but as I did mention in the beginning, this is our third phase launch. So we've had phase one sold out, we've had phase two, which is maybe got 1 or 2 units still available to it, but we're about to launch phase three, which is about 2 months ahead of schedule. So it's sold incredibly well in the market, a lot better than what we were expecting, but there are key reasons for this, which I'll take you through in the next slide, please. So let's look at the area in terms of where the Halcyon sits. The Halcyon is in West Yorkshire, which is in a town called Bingley, which is just outside of Leeds. Leeds being further north in England, about an hour northeast of Manchester. It's a thriving city. It's got a lot of activity currently taking place, whether it be financial services or universities or retail and media. There's a lot happening there. If we can jump to the next slide, please. So the average property price in Leeds currently sits at about £241,000. The growth for the next 4 years, we're looking at about 14.6% growth and rental growth of about 24% over the next 4 years. So that works out to about 38% growth or 39% in the next 4 years. Leeds is home to just over 855,000 people and is the third largest city in England based on its population. JLL has reported that Leeds has had the highest annual price growth over the last 5 years out of all the big 6 cities in England. So with a price growth of 57%, and that's JLL's research on that number. So that means it's actually outperformed Manchester, it's outperformed Birmingham and Liverpool and the like. So Leeds has had quite a lot of attention on it. Savills predicts that the property values in Leeds could increase by over 20% between now and 2028. And not only in Leeds, but across the broader Yorkshire region. So that's West Yorkshire, that's the Humber. It's quite a big region that is actually falling underneath that growth. The Leeds financial and professional sector employs over 320,000 individuals, and that contributes about £20 billion to the economic output. So essentially, there are a lot of jobs on offer that are professional sector driven and paying employees decent salaries. So the demand to live and work in Leeds is definitely there because your cost of living is also a lot lower than in the south. So it's offering those opportunities for careers as well as a great lifestyle. If we can jump to the next slide, please. So just looking at some of the key employees or employers in Leeds itself, we've got all the usual suspects there: KPMG, Ernst & Young, PwC, ASDA, Deloitte, along the financial services industry, which is obviously a huge focus on. The media industry in Leeds is doing incredibly well. Channel 4, one of the biggest news outlets in the UK, has moved to Leeds. Their head office is there. ITV Yorkshire is based there, as well as Sky Bet being based there. So that's created a huge hub for Leeds media industry So we're not just focused on the financial sector. An interesting story about the Bank of England. There are only two Bank of England offices in England, one being London and the other being in Leeds. Leeds office currently employs 70 individuals, but they plan to grow that office to over 500 people before or in the next 2 years. So that's due to the economic output currently taking place there. So that activity has stemmed a lot of interest, and obviously there's a need to be closer to it. So it's also, funny enough, Leeds is the third largest destination for retail outside of London, and it's got three very, very key universities. One being the University of Leeds. If we can jump to the next slide, please. Which actually employs over 4,000 academic staff alone at the university, which are exactly who our target market are, a young professional. He has some news articles just illustrating the expansion of the Northern Hub in Leeds and Channel 4 making their way to Leeds as their HQ. If you can jump to the next slide, please. So another focus on Leeds and what is making it so exciting are the regeneration projects currently underway. The Leeds South Bank regeneration scheme is looking at a £500 million investment into the area. This is going to create 8,000 new homes, 35,000 new jobs, and create a new city centre park, as well as improve connections to surrounding areas. So it's just going to become easier to travel in and out, and there's more reason to travel in and out as this takes place. Now, the Wellington Place Financial District is quite a key note to take interest in, because in the city centre of Leeds, you've got that financial district, which is quite a small epicenter, and they are refurbing that to obviously stimulate growth and attract more institutions to come there. So they're going to be including 176,000 square feet of new office space, 6,800 square feet of retail and leisure space, but it's also all very sustainable driven development. So everything they're doing, they have green efficiency and the environment in mind. Then the mass transit system in the north. This has been quite a big thing for the last couple of decades to try and improve the transit or transport systems in the north, and they are allocating funds to that, and they are underway in terms of developing a new infrastructure and commuting system in the north to make commuting a lot easier, which comes into our next slide, please. So Leeds, as I was mentioning, they have three major universities. Now, as a property company focusing on investment-driven property where we want the highest returns and the most stable returns for our clients, we inherently don't do student accommodation. It comes with its own risks attached to it. We want our clients to benefit fully from the property, and that mostly comes from the capital appreciation in a medium to long-term period. We don't find students provide that to a property. We all know how students look after a property. On a whole, banks won't lend on student properties, so we don't feel our clients should also be within that. So essentially, we don't focus on students, but as I mentioned, we've got Leeds University itself employing over 4,000 academic staff, which definitely would fit our tenant criteria. However, with these universities, we're seeing the graduate retention rate in Leeds increase year on year. This is due to the jobs on offer, and the jobs on offer increasing in number year on year as more institutions grow and move to the city. So we have a 27% graduate retention rate currently that Leeds can be very proud of, and that is very good for economic output. So, I mean, last year alone, over 392,000 young professionals in Leeds were employed in the year, and or that was actually in 2023. So, it's a huge number, and it's something they can be very proud of. You can jump to the next slide, please. The commuting system, as I mentioned earlier, is super important. What we have seen since COVID is obviously the need to, and want and desire to live further out from a city centre, get more value for money on a property, enjoy a countryside living a bit more, and enjoy space. That is still a trend that is true today. I'll go into some numbers now. We've seen the trend that people are still working remotely from home a couple of days a week. but that means that they want to be in a space that still provides the ability to work efficiently from home. But what Leeds has is the Leeds City Station, which is in the center of the city. As I mentioned, that financial district is in the city center. You've got a 2-minute walk radius from the city center, and you'll get to all those financial services jobs. So within a 2-minute walk from the city or the train station in the city center, you'll be at your desk, which is a huge thing in terms of allowing people to actually now commute into the city on a daily basis and not have to live within the city to be close to their jobs or be commuting across the city and whatnot. But it's very commutable. We've got the Leeds Bradford Airport that's only about 7 miles away from the city centre. The Northern Powerhouse rail and its economic benefits are really creating more jobs around and making travel a lot more accessible. We've got Manchester, it's under an hour away. Bingley, where our development, the Halcyon is only 24 minutes away, and Bradford is 18 minutes away. Sheffield, a mere 40 minutes away or just under. Please jump to the next slide. So what we've seen since that COVID trend of people moving further out for more value for money, space, a better lifestyle, couldn't ring truer. Here's a heat map of the recent research done in terms of how far people are now traveling to get into Leeds on a daily basis. This heat map has expanded over the last couple of years as people have recognized the lifestyle benefit of just being further out with more space and working remotely, helping that obviously as well. So people are prepared to commute a little bit longer for a better lifestyle on a whole. If we can jump to the next slide, please. So another quick investment case that I'll run through. Bradford is only 16 minutes away from the Halcyon and Bingley. Bradford has recently gone under a £700 million regeneration scheme. £500 million was spent on the city centre, £200 million on the outskirts. The jobs on offer there are over 200,000 jobs on offer, and it's actually been named as the City of Culture in the UK for 2025. So the last 2 to 3 years, there's been a large push towards this because they are on the map this year for this. They've received budget for marketing, for tourism. They're very renowned for the universities there. Very good engineering faculty at the University of Bradford, which is world renowned, and obviously institutions and growing, as well as the entrepreneurial spirit in Bradford being very strong. We jump to the next slide, please. Yeah, so the employers there, base Hallmark, Morrison's, Yorkshire Water, or strong employment base for creating demand to live in that region, and obviously rental demand for properties. Next slide, please. And then we can jump to the next slide. Yeah, I mentioned the university is very, very well renowned. The culture in Bradford has really been on an up in the last decade. This year has been a big one for them, as obviously being named the City of Culture in the UK for 25. Next slide, please. Broadway Shopping Centre, a large shopping centre that was cost. Yeah, it was about £1 billion. No, sorry. It was about £260 million worth of a shopping centre that was built not so long ago. Obviously, just making facilities and amenities in the area that much better than it was previously. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. So as I mentioned, it's 16 minutes away from our development and 18 minutes away from the city centre of Leeds. So let's jump into the Halcyon. What have we got here? What makes it so different? Why are we so excited about it? Because this is truly one of the most astounding developments we've actually brought to the market in a number of years. What have we got? It's a countryside development that is focused on lifestyle. We've decided that actually for the investor and the landlord to create that extra value, we needed to create the value for the tenants and create that demand. So the Halcyon is a building that is converted. It was completed in 2001. It was the head office for the Bank of Bradford and Bingley, who got bought by Santander Bank and absorbed into there. We have now converted this into a residency. focusing on the needs of the modern employee in the UK. So, as I mentioned, and I'll go through it in a little bit again, this is the third phase of the project. The first two phases selling incredibly well. We are starting in phase 3 with units from just under £160,000. The completion is due to complete in Q3 or Q4 next year, and that allows you to manage your cash flows because it allows you to secure the unit with a 20% deposit this year. And then on completion next year, if you're going to utilize a mortgage, or on completion, the balance, the 80% will be due, and you can pay that 80% either cash or cash and a mortgage. So I'll get into it in a little bit about that, but we're expecting gross yields of about 7% in the Halcyon. Now that is above average of the UK standard. 7% is going to give you a good monthly rental income, and it's also, this particular development is going to give you strong capital appreciation as it falls within that West Yorkshire and Humber region that's projected to actually yield or appreciate by about 28% in the next 4 to 5 years. If we can jump to the next slide, please. So just to illustrate its positioning, it is a 24-minute commute into the city centre of Leeds and 16 into Bradford. If you look, there's an example here of the employers around the train station in Leeds. You got Deloitte, PwC, Channel 4, BT, all within a couple minutes walk of that train station. And then in the centre of Bradford, you've got the University of Bradford, PwC, all based just around the train station. But now what this gives you, the Halcyon is actually at the foot of the Yorkshire Hills, which is in the beautiful countryside. It's actually a very sought after tourist destination as well, and that's what our residents will get to benefit from. If we can jump to the next slide, please. What we've done uniquely at the Halcyon is not only the amenities, which I'll jump onto now, but we are offering our clients a share of the freehold title of the actual development. In the UK, when you purchase an apartment, you'll most probably purchase it leasehold. We try and focus on property that offers 999-year leasehold so that it won't affect you, your kids, your grandchildren, or the next generations to come. But in that, we have registered a management company. That management company owns the freehold title of the property, and all of our investors will own a share in that management company. There's a lot of benefits to this, and the fact that not only do you get the leasehold and the freehold ownership, you'll also have the right to manage. So the right to manage will allow you to keep your service charges of the property down to a minimum to maximize your net yield on the property. Because the Halcyon has a number of amenities, which I'll go into, we are able to manage those and obviously make sure that the investors investing in aren't paying out their pockets for the service charges. So we utilizing the higher gross yield of rentals in Bingley as an area, we are able to combat those service charges as well as keep them as low as possible, with the investors being on the management company. So it's a very unique opportunity, receiving both the leasehold and freehold title, and being able to have that right to manage. And yeah, so very unique offering to the property. Next slide, please. I should also mention that there is no ground rent with the leasehold, so you aren't paying for that to anyone at all, any month of your ownership. Our studies in the area and in the UK have come from the ONS, and it's quite clear that our target market for our tenants sit between the 40 of clients or tenants earning £40,000 or more a year. And what the studies have shown is that the more an employee actually owns or earns in the year, they actually spend more time working remotely. So they can, up to over £40,000 salary packages, can see people working from home up to 60% of the week. That means that people need to be able to operate effectively from home, not hunched over their kitchen counter trying to get their daily tasks done, but to be able to be in an environment that they can operate. And that's what we've done at the Halcyon. If we can jump to the next slide, please. Sorry. let's just jump into here in terms of why the northern cities are powering ahead in terms of price growth. These cities have been identified for the higher growth, as I mentioned previously, because of that more affordability of their lifestyle, a way better way of life, as well as jobs being more and more available in the north and offering them that security. So that's what we're seeing. And obviously, that institutional investment into the north is seeing that demand just snowball and grow as projected a couple of years ago. Next slide, please. Bingley itself, where the Halcyon is situated, was voted Leeds #1 commuter town. So, as an alternative to living in the city centre, you will be, choosing the countryside over the city centre, but it's on your doorstep. Should you want to go there, or Bradford, you're able to go there within a few minutes. The town of Bingley itself has amazing amenities and facilities, so you don't have to always drive or commute into the city for amenities and the like. But the culture and the way of life in Bingley is very sought after, hence putting it on the map in terms of a good investment case. Next slide, please. So the amenities is what has brought this development to life. We've got over 32 different amenities in the Halcyon, from a commercially spec gym with a yoga studio, cardio room, weights room with change rooms. We've got a private dining suite where tenants can host dinner parties. We've got 2 different event lounges for bigger events with commercial kitchens. We've got guest suites, which is very unique. If you've got a guest coming to stay with you, family or friends, you don't have to put them on the floor or the couch in your room. You can book them in a guest suite, which is a studio apartment in the Halcyon, which is a great offering. We've got a games lounge to obviously stimulate community. Cinema room. We've even got a golf simulator. We've got an outdoor and indoor cafe. A 24-hour concierge to help manage these facilities. But most importantly, not only do we have co-work space, but we've also got serviced office space. So tenants can rent an office in the Halcyon, and there's fully equipped boardrooms, meeting rooms. We've got Instagram pods or podcast pods, for the modern professional in media, and we've got breakout lounges throughout. But what's allowed us to actually do this is the most interesting thing. In the UK, we've seen the rental market in the last 3 years grow about 33%, or the rental prices on average. Now, that is huge for a market the size of the UK. But where most of that growth has actually stemmed from, yes, there's a lack of housing, and that is what's driven property prices in the UK for decades, because they can't supply enough properties to the market. For every 25 tenants, there's only 1 unit really available. So you are seeing that market driven by that demand and the lack of supply. But that rental growth that was significantly around that 33% mark was predominantly made up by institutional landlords. So build to rent landlords or developers that will build a development and retain the stock for themselves and rent it out and create their own cash flow. They were able and are able to actually provide more for the tenants. Their units will be bigger. They will have more amenity spaces because they will control the service charges, a right to manage essentially. Compared to the build or the buy-to-let market, which we inherently operate in the most, the developer is selling to the retail investor. So they will have more units within a development to sell. So the units are a lot smaller to plan for that. They'll have less offerings on the amenities because they want to try to keep the service charges low so that it's still viable for the investor to invest in. And essentially, this is what the tenant sees when they come to the market. They will do a comparison of an institutional landlord compared to a buy-to-let landlord, and they'll see the difference and the value they will get from the build-to-rent offerings. So what we've done with the Secon Group, the developer of this development, who are a build-to-rent developer, this is their first development that they are making available to the retail investor, which we are super excited about. We've mirrored that model. We've mirrored the build-to-rent model so that we can create that tenant demand, which is going to drive the rentals up and the demand to live there, and obviously give a point of difference to the market in terms of what is on offer in the area. So it's something we're super excited about, and it's a very unique. If we could jump into some slides now, you'll see how unique it is. Essentially, the average one bedroom unit in the UK is about 42 to 44 square meters. Our average size apartments here are about 75 to 82 square meters, as you can see in the slide here. Even the ceiling heights are double ceiling heights, giving a lot more space, and yeah, just a very different offering in the market. A bedroom like this in an apartment in the UK is probably hard to come by. Being from Africa, we obviously are used to bigger apartments, bigger houses, bigger garden, but this is the UK. Space is a commodity of note, and so this doesn't come to the market very easily. So we are creating the demand here through a point of difference in the offering. It's the cinema room, the indoor terrace cafe. Jump to the next slide. We've got the private dining room on the left, the games room on the right, gym and concierge. And if we jump into the next slide, is actually a slide of the outlook of the Halcyon. Phase 3. So phase 1 was the building on the right. Phase 2 was the building facing towards the hills here. And then phase 3, which is boundary view, is obviously this side of the building looking upon the cricket oval. So a very serene, awesome outlook for these units. We've got ample parking available as well, which is a nice to have. This is the town of Bingley, very much steeped in culture and history. Yeah, awesome pubs, restaurants, and shops and the like in Bingley as well to supply the local residents. Next slide, please. And then just in our own appraisals in the project prior to launching, we went to a number of managing agents and asked them to do an appraisal of the site. When I say we went to them, a lot of them actually came to us because they have identified it being as a very unique offering. Especially Bingley is short of houses themselves. They don't have enough on the market, and offering like this is definitely going to do incredibly well there. So and it was the same for all the managing agents that came through there. They're expecting around 7% gross yields for these apartments, and we are expecting about a 6% net yield by keeping those service charges as low as possible as well. So very excited about the prospect of how well it's going to do in the area. Next slide, please. The Second Group, who are the developers on this project, it's an absolute privilege to work alongside them. They are a family business, over 50 years in the game, but they've been in the property industry for about 20 years. They've delivered over 1,000 apartments for themselves that they've retained, obviously, and they manage and they collect the rentals on those. They've done commercial property as well, and they've built a portfolio of above £73 million in this time. Quite uniquely with the Second Group and the family, they do council government in the property and housing departments in terms of the crisis, what's going on. They are a renowned developer in the north. They have done incredibly well, and they are very active also in the communities. So it's a privilege to work alongside them, and yeah, their expertise are amazing, and we can't wait to see. I mean, we're already seeing this project come to life as it's been underway since the end of last year. The end of 2023. So we've seen a lot of progress already in the conversion. You can jump to the next slide, please. So that's it in terms of the Halcyon. One thing I didn't mention a lot on is essentially how our clients would mostly purchase their properties. And being from Africa, I would say the misconception of our clients who engage with us to look at purchasing property, a lot of the time don't realize that they are able actually to utilize a mortgage to purchase property in the UK. Or some clients don't realize that they can actually purchase property in the UK as a non-resident. So these are things that can definitely influence your decision in terms of whether it's a viable investment for yourself or not, because about 90% of our clients will always purchase with a mortgage, and this allows them to manage their cash flows. They can put as little of their own money into a property while that property increases in value, and then you have a tenant that's paying rental, that's paying off the mortgage and service charges and managing agency fees, so it washes its own face, and you get to hold an asset in the UK that, as mentioned earlier, will double in value in a 12 to 14-year period, and obviously that rental income will increase, and the yield will get better over time. So that is the prominent strategy of our clients. And I think a property like the Halcyon is wonderful because the price point is at that perfect price point where if you're trying it out for the first time, you're not throwing the kitchen sink at it. But an interesting fact upon launch of Halcyon Phase 1 is that Phase 1 was mostly bought, I would say 90% was bought by existing landlords that already understand the market, understand added value, understand what is needed to create that positive outlook on the property, as well as agents that sell and distribute our property bought into that Phase 1 and Phase 2 quite significantly, as they realized something was unique about this. The value proposition's there. A lot of the risk is already mitigated by the fact that we are so far down the line in the building process and that we've got sound developer partners on the project. So I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. We've got a question and answer box down at the bottom. If you see it says Q&A, you're welcome just to type your questions in there. Apologies, I should have actually mentioned that earlier. But I did get a question earlier about management of the property. Someone did ask me who manages the property. I did mention to you there that we have partnerships in place with managing agents that are accountable to us in terms of how quickly they find the tenants, how they position the properties on the market, vetting any applicants that want to come and rent or apply to rent on these. They will vet those applicants, and then they'll only put the strongest applicants in front of our clients, where you'll get to choose who the tenant is. On that, a common question is always, what are the risks of a void period in the UK and, my apartment not renting out? So because of the housing crisis, and as I mentioned earlier, there are about 25 tenants for every available apartment in the UK. If you invest wisely in the correct areas, you shouldn't have any risk on that void periods, because the demand will be there if you've done it correctly. And I can attest to the fact that Bingley does have that, Leeds does have that, the demand to go, the young professionals and the institutions that are operating there provide this security. But also, for a mere about 250, 260 pounds a year, you can get rental cover from your managing agent that will cover you should there be any void periods or rental defaults, I should say. But then, yeah, there's a question in here asking what the tax obligations would be for a Zambian purchasing property in the UK. It's a good question. I'm not a tax advisor, but there are options in terms of if you are a non-resident in the UK but a Zambian resident, if you purchase the property in your individual capacity, you would benefit from a dual tax allowance, which allows you £12,580 a year of income that you don't have to pay in the UK. You'll submit a tax return, but you'd be registered as a non-resident landlord. There are other ways of purchasing the property. You could purchase it within a limited company on SPV, and then you'd be paying corporation tax on what that company earns. So we are able to help assist in that as well. There are many ways to skin a cat. Not one way is the best for everyone. We do have tax consultants that can also advise on your personal situation and what might be best for you. So if you want that, just reach out to us and we can set that up. Yeah, so I see the question here, can a Zambian resident get a mortgage in the UK? And as I mentioned earlier, you can. We do advise just conducting a mortgage consult with one of our mortgage brokers to understand your ability for borrowing in the UK. But essentially, yes, Most of our clients are achieving mortgages. You can achieve up to a 75% loan to value as a non-resident in the UK, but I would say our clients not holding UK passports that are Africa based and residents in Africa, Zambia specifically, we're seeing loan to values between 55% and up to 70%, but I would go on the cautious side of 60% loan to value. And interest rates now, if the project's actually completing now, we've been seeing interest rates between 7 and 8% for clients. But that interest rate is due to come down. The Bank of England rate being a 4.75% is projected to come down over the next year or two. So we could see those interest rates dropping. So yeah, all I would say is have a quick, easy mortgage consult and understand what lending is available to you, and you can budget that into what your affordability would look like. Yeah, so there was another question there saying what sort of interest rate, but I think I covered that there. Guys, thank you. I think we'll leave it there. There are no more questions, but should you wish to reach out, please get in touch with your DeVere consultant, and we can arrange a consult. We can arrange a mortgage consult as well, and we can take you through some intricacies. It's very exciting to launch this phase 3. As we know, phase 1 and phase 2 have flown through. And yeah, if you want to capitalize on the opportunity, please don't hesitate. Get in touch and let's take you through this and see if we can help you out. But have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us, and it is much appreciated. Thank you.